Welcome to RunnerTrack's CSUB's Organizational Training and Leadership Series. This module is all about forms fields in RunnerSync. We will go over the numerous types of fields available and when each is appropriate. You started a form and completed the settings. Let's move on to fields. To add a field to a form, simply drag the button onto the form. Let's start with a header. A header is from the group of fields called a layout. Layout fields do not ask the user questions, they just help with the layout of the form. Once you drag a field into the form, a Field Settings sidebar will pop up. All field elements allow you to set a name and description and change the size of the element. Fields also have conditionals, which is logic that you can define, so if certain conditions are met, the field will be turned on or off. Let's go back to the Fields sidebar. Fields are divided into 4 types: Basic, Advanced, and Widget. All ask the user to enter information. Let's look at the basic fields: text, numbers, and choice. This is the field settings sidebar for a text field. Give the field a name and let's set the size for this field to medium. Check required if a response is mandatory. Set the input size to a single line, paragraph, or formatted text. You can also set a character minimum and maximum, but keep in mind this is a character count, not a word count. Remember when we were in settings, we set this form to allow revisions. You can also do this for each field element separately. The number field should be used for numbers that you might add together. Numbers like CSUB ID numbers or phone numbers should be used as a text field. Under number settings, the field option asks for a number. Scale gives you a sliding scale like the one in this image. Likert scale lets the user respond with agree, strongly disagree, etc. The choice field also gives you some style options. You can set the field to be a drop-down list, a side-by-side list, or a checkbox. A drop-down list will give you a defined set of choices like a list of states. The list options give you a set of buttons side by side like the ones in this image. Checkbox is helpful if you want to have a single option like a terms of service agreement. Each of the fields we've been using has been set to one of 4 possible sizes. The header was set to large, the text field was set to medium, the number and choice fields were set to small. We added a few temporary fields set to extra small. By moving them around, you can see how these fields fit together. A large field takes the entire width of the form. A medium and an extra small can fit side by side. 2 smalls can fit side by side, or 3 extra smalls can fit side by side. Fields float upward until they meet an obstacle. Since fields can be different heights, this will affect how the fields fit together. Notice the gap in the middle of this form. This is a good reason for adding headers or field groups to separate sections because everything immediately below it will start off level again. We'll talk more about field groups later. The Advanced section includes fields for the time and date, email addresses, file uploads, signatures, and image searches. Date and time will provide a pop-up calendar so the user can select a date and a time. The email field will only accept responses in email format, and you can limit the addresses to a specific domain like csub.edu. The file upload field asks the user to upload a file and allows you to limit what kinds of files can be uploaded. The signature field allows you to capture a signature either with a mouse on a computer or with a stylus or finger on a phone or tablet. The image search asks the user to either upload an image or enter a keyword and search for one in the RunnerSync database. As mentioned earlier, the layout options do not ask the user for information. They only provide a way to organize the layout of the form and to share information with the user. There are 4 options: content, field group, header, and image. We've already explained headers. Content gives you a way to add instructions or information for the user. Image allows you to add an image to the form outside of a content area. These are all pretty self-explanatory, but field groups are a little more complicated. Field groups allow you to group content and data fields together and treat them as a single group. For example, the club officer and advisor registration form asks the user which position they hold in the club. The response determines which group of questions they will be given. Field groups can be set to allow repeating questions. For example, you can continue to add members to a roster until all members have been added. To add a field, drag the element over the field group and drop it. To move a field between groups, drag it from one group to another and hold it there until the edges of the group glow, then drop it. The final form elements are called widgets. There are two types of widgets, organizations and events. These will look into the RunnerSync system and pull up a list of active organizations or events for the user to choose from. The organization widget lets you choose only from organizations that exist in RunnerSync. Use the widget settings to limit which organization users can choose from. You can allow users to select more than one organization. The events widget is much less helpful. As you can see in this example, many events are poorly named, so it is impossible to choose from a list which event is the correct one. You can adjust the widget settings to reduce the list to just a few options, which is more helpful. As mentioned in the Forms Setting module, RunnerSync forms do not autosave. Save frequently so you don't lose progress. Once you've saved the form, you can review the most recent version from the user's side. Notice here that the president's email field is taller than the surrounding fields, which would throw off everything below it. But by putting the questions into field groups, the fields are realigned at the top of every group. This makes the form easier to navigate. Here are a few last thoughts about form fields in RunnerSync. RunnerSync doesn't save your progress automatically, so save frequently. Look at the form periodically on the student portal side to make sure the formatting looks good and that you aren't overlooking anything. Test it. Submit a test form and look at the response. Make sure you're getting all the information you need and in the right format. If anything was confusing or easy to skip, fix it before it goes live. If your fields and settings are complete, change the form's status from draft to active. If you set a future starting time, the form will not be visible until then. If you make changes to the form after there have been responses, those changes will only affect future responses. Use forms as much as possible to carry the burden of work for your club. Use the data to make your club more effective. However, if you aren't going to use the data, don't waste time collecting it. Thank you for watching our RunnerTrax Officer Training and Leadership video on form fields in RunnerSync. Please return to the RunnerTrax training form, answer a few questions about this video, and submit the form. If you have questions or want more information, email us at getinvolved@csub.edu, and please watch our other RunnerTrax videos.